We got another Planet of the Apes movie.
Because we just don't have enough movies and television series and comic books about apes taking over the world.
We'll talk about the importance of history on this episode of the Finding Good podcast with Kevin and Milton.
All right, welcome back to the Finding Good podcast. My name is Kevin.
I'm Milton.
And we are two guys who are really good friends.
Yeah.
We go see movies together.
Yep.
And then we pull out different themes to talk about them and invite you along in the conversation. So thanks so much for joining us again. If you kind of like this conversation as we get into it, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment as we talk about just different things that kind of hit you. We'll engage with you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
So another movie about the struggle between ape and man. Because we didn't have enough of
You
them.
say another. I feel like we have a lot of these, but I didn't realize, based on your incredible show prep and research that you do for these episodes, we have 14.
Is it 14?
Is that how much?
15.
15?
15 Planet of the Apes movies, including made-for-TV movies.
It just feels kind of excessive.
Okay, maybe.
Just a little bit.
I don't think there's any series with more.
Wow.
Did you know that the first one,
Okay.
1968, that was the first Planet of the Apes movie?
I just feel like humanity can do better. We have so many great...
Not according to these movies, we can't.
That's right. Yeah, we're done. We're done. Maybe that's the point. But there's just so many other great stories that should have 15 episodes or 15 different movies.
Now, have you seen the original, the OG Planet of the Apes?
I have.
Charlton Heston?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm surprised by that.
I know.
Okay.
Well, my dad was a huge sci-fi fan. Big sci-fi fan.
Gotcha.
And so I remember growing up with these movies and just absolutely hating them.
Really?
And my dad would watch them over and over and want me to watch. It was kind of like, I think that it was one of his ways of bonding.
Yeah.
That and working on cars. And I rejected them both. I'm just like, Dad.
So it was your fault.
I mean, pretty much.
If you would have watched Planet of the Apes movies with your dad, you'd have a better relationship
I
with
really would. I probably would. No, but I was just confused the whole time because I was like 10.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
what? I don't understand any of this.
So do you get the twist at the end of the first one? Like,
Well, I've done some research
Okay.
as these movies have continued of like what's going on. A lot of time travel, a lot of like going back into space and coming back. And I just enjoy movies for what they are now. I don't really think too hard about them. You know,
Except for this podcast.
I'm a simple mind.
yeah.
That's why you're here.
Right.
So
your dad tried to explain to you kind of what was going on, but it
Right.
just wasn't hitting. Big Statue of Liberty at the end of the movie, and
yeah.
you just were like, what?
And I just remember so much loincloths. Like, so many loincloths. Like, should I be watching this, Dad? What are you exposing me to? Put some pants on for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's true.
Or a shirt, maybe a tank top.
Wow. I wasn't expecting this podcast to take this turn, loincloths.
Well,
The mental pictures are just very disturbing right now. But
Right?
It's fine. Let's move on.
Okay.
Okay, so in this version of, because this is kind of like remakes of the original. We haven't been following a one storyline from 1968 till 2020.
They restarted the story.
Kind of restarting the story, giving us a little bit of background of how the 1968 reality came about.
Sure.
Right? Okay, so here we are.
Okay.
And what we're finding in this, I think this is the fourth
Yes.
of this.
Not counting the Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, we're
Like that one.
I want to forget that happened. Sorry, Mark Wahlberg, but you've done such better work in other things.
Okay, so that one doesn't count.
That one doesn't count.
Yeah.
So what we're finding here is, in the first movie, we're introduced to Caesar, and Caesar is this ape that was done. You know, they were doing some experiments to try to understand Alzheimer's and cure Alzheimer's, and wound up Caesar learned to talk.
Yeah, whoops.
And who knew that was going to happen, right? And then, of course, as the movies progress, more apes start talking. There's a virus that's released on the earth. Okay, so we're here. Caesar has passed.
This jumps like 300 years, I think.
Is it 300? They measured it by generations. They said 3 generations.
Oh, maybe that's what.
Yeah.
I always think a generation is like 100 years.
Okay,
but
so
it's not.
let's say it is. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know how long apes live.
In
but
ape
anyway.
years.
Yeah, 8 years, right. So Caesar has passed, and we see the current generation in this movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, has kind of forgotten Caesar, forgotten what he stood for, forgotten the things that he taught as he was trying to organize the community of apes and bring them together. And of course, at least in my mind, these apes have forgotten their history, they've forgotten their foundation that they were built on, and everything's going crazy and going bad, and everything seems to be on fire, right?
I think there's a phrase for that, but we won't say it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that's what we find in this movie, and here's what the legacy that Caesar left for them that got forgotten. He had 3 basic rules. Okay.
Like the 3 commandments of the apes.
Kind of, yeah. Okay. Ape, not kill ape. This was in their that's the way they said it.
Yes.
Ape, not kill ape.
Well, they don't have all the words yet.
No, they're getting started.
Yeah.
Apes together strong, and knowledge is power. I think that's good.
Right.
I mean,
I think they did
make
a
it
pretty good
simple,
job.
right? Like,
Yeah.
And now the apes are fighting against each other. They're forgetting what they stood for. They've forgotten all the principles. And as I'm looking at this, and I'm like, oh, those dumb apes, right? look how they could have had the greatest world ever. I'm like, we don't do that either.
No.
Humans struggle with this also.
Yeah, it's like the circle of life, kind of, sort of. It's we can't get it together at all.
Yeah.
Nope. And I think we talk about these 3 things. God has actually given us this foundation to live. I joked about the 3 commandments.
Right.
I mean, God has given us the 10 commandments. Yeah. And it's like, thou shalt not kill. Human, no kill human. If God spoke like an ape, and we just, it feels like we have gotten so far away from all of those in this moment, but that is true of human history since the very beginning.
Oh, I mean, you look at, obviously we can go to world history and we see this, but I'm the Bible guy, right? I'm the pastor, so I'll go to biblical history. You have the Israelites over and over completely forgetting what God taught them, how God guided them, the path that God put them on. And their biggest issue, of course, was idolatry. They just continued to go back to the idols, and then something bad would happen and they'd turn to God and they'd be like, God, we're sorry, our bad. And God would be like, cool, I'm going to forgive you. I'm going to restore you. And then another leader would come and screw everything up and forget everything. I mean, there was one point that they had a really good king, the Israelites. I'm trying to remember the name. It doesn't matter. The point is that they were in such disarray that the good king saw the temple. They had built the temple, Solomon's beautiful temple. And they're like, you know what? The temple's looking kind of bad. We should go clean it up. And they go in there, they clean it up. And they find the scriptures. They find the scroll of everything God had taught them. And they're like, oh, wow, look at this. Look at this. Look at what we found here. So the king gathers everybody together and he's like, hey, you know what? We should read this. And he has it read out loud to everybody, and everybody hears it like it's the first time they've heard it, which means they hadn't read this thing for generations probably, and nobody had been sharing it, nobody had been talking about it, nobody had remembered it. And when they read it, they're like, oh, snaps. We're really screwing this up. And they had a huge reformation. Wow. We have this cycle where we just keep forgetting the things that we've learned in the past, and we keep making the same mistakes we always do.
It is interesting how we default towards destruction almost. We just continually need that correction. And you kind of, I just think, if I truly believe everything is God's design, that's got to be God's design. And what is it for? Well, it's so that we will lean only on his way. That's it. That's the answer. And so we forget about it, and that leads into all these different paths that aren't his way, outside of his design. Chaos ensues until we pick up and go, dust off the scripture, the Bible that's been sitting on our shelf for 30 years and go, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, and then we just recenter and learn again.
The danger, though, is what happened in Jesus' time.
Okay.
Right? So we have the Israelites, they just kept messing up, kept sinning, kept walking away from God. So then things got so bad that they were under Babylonian imprisonment, and all these things happened to them. Well, finally, Jesus comes around, and now they're kind of they're still under Roman rule, but they have autonomy and they can do their own thing. Mm-hmm. But what happened? They completely said, we don't want to do that again, the chaos that happened, so we're going to completely control every aspect of life.
Yeah.
And we're going to tell you step by step how you're supposed to live so that we don't ever go back to this. But it's just, that was complete out of controlness, and this is complete controlness.
Right.
And we're not supposed to live in either of those. And we saw this here where whoever, this dude right here, who was in power, now he's controlling everything. Mm-hmm. And they've forgotten that there's still kindness, compassion. We should still seek to be a community and help one another. No, instead, I'll just control everything, and you guys just do what I say, and we're going to hit this goal, no matter what no matter what the results are to be, and no matter how many people suffer. And now, when we used to say ape not hurt ape, not ape not kill ape, now I have to kill ape,
right,
to make this thing work.
Yes.
So we got to be careful that we also don't come to Scripture saying, now we're gonna drop the hammer on everybody.
I mean, it's like everything in life. I always say there's two sides to every coin. There's a side to every pendulum swing, and you want to find that balance and that equilibrium. Ape not kill ape.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, obviously, man not kill man.
Yeah.
The other one that I like, though, is apes together strong.
Yeah.
And I think if we apply that to our own humanity, how much stronger are we when we are together?
Sure.
And how much has this world and the society promoted isolation and selfishness?
Division,
yeah. You can do it on your own. Like, you are in control. Mm-hmm. You don't need anybody. And it's a way I believe the enemy has chipped away on this promise. And just, again, how God made us to be, that we are supposed to be together.
Yeah.
In community.
Right.
That's the way this works.
Yeah. I love that when Jesus shows up on the scene, he's not going to let either version of what we've been trying to do win the day. And he's like, okay, y'all don't get this. Right. So I'm going to try to put this in the simplest terms possible. Mm-hmm. Because your level of language is to the level of the apes. So let's figure this out. Yeah. And Jesus basically gave us a very simple way of understanding what his will is for us as his children, as his creation. And I see it in two ways, and I'll put it in the simplest terms. Jesus didn't use these exact words, but it was love God, love people, right? Love the Lord with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. Mm-hmm. And your neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the other one is the golden rule, treat other people the way you want to be treated.
Right.
And in the end, if that's what we can embrace as humans, if that's what we can be day to day, no matter what the circumstance is, no matter who we're facing, whether it's people against us, disagreeing with us, or just directly attacking us, we can still live this way. And I think that's ultimately will get us to the place where God wants us to be.
Really hard. Really hard to do.
Actually.
Yeah.
Without God's help.
Well, and I do believe that's important. I just go back to your story of just the biblical story of living life and then coming across to this knowledge and dusting it off and going, oh yeah. And I feel like we need to do that daily. I need to do that daily. I need ways to just remind myself about how I'm going to approach the day. I just think our world is going so fast. We're losing it quicker and quicker. I mean, I can literally, I have days where I can literally see where I was rooted and then became unrooted, and then I rooted again in the span of like a 12-hour workday, right?
Wow.
and like some days, even if I wake up and I engage myself in these things, I still lose it in that same day. So, I mean, what are some ways that have helped you really root in these truths?
Yeah, one is one that I try to live with my own personal life, but we also try to do it here at Project, which is spend more time focusing on the things we are for and not the things that we're against. And that's hard. It's very hard because we all have opinions, very strong opinions about certain things. I mean, if we jump into politics, hello. Instant. But there are things that we can all agree on, right? There are things we can all like get behind. And try to spend as much time in those places and those spaces and in those conversations. I'll be real honest. I have 2 young adult daughters, and we don't agree on a lot of things. Well, I shouldn't say on a lot. There are some things we don't agree on, and there's no reason to have those conversations with them. Like what? Unless it's for some reason it's absolutely necessary. I'm not afraid to talk about it, but I want to show love to them. I want to have a positive experience with them, and we can spend time in the things that we love doing together, and we don't have to go talk about heated political issues or social issues.
Sure. And you don't feel like you're just avoiding the topic.
No.
You feel like you're respecting the other person, and it comes in that I'm going to spend my time on what I'm for and not what I'm against.
Yeah.
I think it's really wise.
Well, and the other thing is, also, let's say it does come up. I don't take the position of it's my job to try to change anyone's mind. So what I would prefer is I want to show as much curiosity about what my loved one thinks about this subject, whether I agree with them or not. So I ask questions, and I'm like, okay, I never thought about that. Can you explain that more to me? Or you have this belief about whatever subject it is. Okay, tell me more about that, because I want to understand. Is it possible that I'm wrong? For sure. I don't think that at the moment. But why not be humble and say, if I don't have all the information, it's possible that I could change some aspect of what I believe.
Wow, because like you're convicting me.
Okay.
Because my
job is done here.
I just tell you what I believe.
Yeah.
Like if we're sitting down, I just go. I don't give an opportunity for a lot. I mean, if you want to share your opinion on it, fine. But I'm gonna share my opinion.
Yeah.
And really, usually that opinion is layered with all the things that I'm against. It's interesting.
It's the only way you have the opinion, honestly. It's kind of the way it's constructed.
I mean, yeah, really. I mean, it really is. And I'm sure if I sat here and pulled apart a lot of those things, which we're not going to do here because that would be very vulnerable.
And a very long podcast, too.
We can do it later. But no, seriously, though, I do think it's challenging to approach conversations and maybe heated topics where you can listen first, ask really good questions, learn, and that doesn't mean you can't share your position from a point of view of positivity and just like here's how I engage with this, because that's literally what I'm for.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's not a default for me. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I'm basically an ape. That's what we're saying. Just fling my poo.
I never said that. Others may have. I won't say who.
All right, so be more about what we are for than against. That's one.
Yeah. The other one is spend more time in positive spaces than negative spaces.
Yes, I love this.
And this there are it feels like there's less positive spaces than negative spaces.
Well, define space. I mean,
it could be anything. It could be places you go where you know what kind of conversations there are going to be. Places online, groups that you follow or don't follow.
News feeds,
comments. Like
podcasts,
comments are some of the worst places to go.
Yep.
Because even a positive comment, a positive post will have negative comments.
Oh yeah.
Right. So spend as much time in positivity as you can. You can't completely avoid negativity. It's not possible. But can you have more of a balance? Because if you only spend time or spend the majority of time in negative spaces, what do you think is going to come out of that? You're going to come out with negativity.
Yeah, for sure.
And nobody plans on that, but it's just the natural outcome of the choices we make.
Yeah, I'm glad you said comment section. Because I hate this episode. Like, you're... and I'm in it. No, I think the comment section is something I've noticed. This there's a news app that I'm in, and they have comments, and I noticed that I'm leaving comments a lot. I'm not reading comments. I'm just like, I read the article, get really ticked, drop my negative comment in, and go on.
See ya.
Yeah. How helpful is that? Like, to me,
know.
I'm like, oh, that felt really good. That was a form of therapy. I'm just, rah, and then I leave. And I am feeding into this negative space. And if you spend any time in those comments, you hundreds of negative comments. It's like, that's what, I'm in very good company. That's what people do. So challenge me. What would be a better way to interact there?
Oh, it's interesting. I was just thinking about that because I hadn't written this down in preparation for this, but I try to be this for a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
I tell people, you've got some real passionate opinions about stuff. I get that. I think it's good. It shows that you have a level of care about this subject. That's great. Let me be the person you rant to. Because I'm going to save you from a world of hurt and a spiral that's going to take you to somewhere you never intended to go. And when you're there, you're going to regret you went there. Well. And let me be the safe place, the person that you trust, that isn't going to judge you, is going to listen, that you trust, that will, if they give you any pushback, they do it in love, not to trigger you and to poke you. And I love doing that because it allows people to get stuff off their chest in a safer environment, and they're better for it. And sometimes you just got to get it out.
No, I think that's good. So process it with people.
Yeah.
Don't process it alone, because that's really what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, you think you're doing it with people, but nobody there loves you or cares about you.
No, I'm not reading feedback. I'm not engaged in conversation.
You're a drive-by commenter.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. And I'm like an ape throwing poo at people as we walk by.
They don't appreciate it.
No. So I do find someone to talk to and have a conversation around it. And I think that's good. That's cool that you can be that person.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I like gossip too much. Maybe that's why I'm good at it.
As long as you don't take it and go
tell somebody oh, you can't believe what Kevin just said.
That's right. Yes. All right. So that's the second: positive space, negative space, and then a third.
Yeah. So it's taking some personal inventory and recognizing what your negative contributions are and the negativity that lives inside of you. Until you can be realistic about where you're at, you're not going to be able to find a better option. Yeah. Right? Because if you don't recognize it, you don't see it.
Yeah. True.
So you got to do some internal digging, right? And be like, okay, I do have these weird feelings about this, and I do take it too far, and I'm hurting people this way. Why? You know, and process that either in therapy or with a good friend that you trust, and because I think if we were honest, I remember a friend told me once, him and his wife are completely opposite spectrum politically. but they love each other, right? But here's what happens. They start reading their feeds, watching their shows, whatever, and then they just can't sit in the living room and just be together and love, right? They have to share opinions. And I'm sure none of them, when they did their wedding vows, thought, oh, I can't wait to fight with you about politics, right? Yes. That was never in the formula. Yeah. So now it's, why do we do this? Like, what is it that's allowing this to supersede my love for you? Because that's actually what's happening. It's actually blocking your love for one another. That's going to lead, you know where that leads.
Sure.
The end.
Yeah.
So why? That's why you got to talk through this and say, like, and you can have rules, you can set boundaries, you can do. It doesn't mean you have to change each other. It just means, like, let's not let this get in the way of why we got together in the first place.
You know, one thing that I have experienced and learned as I go through this portion, I am doing this a little bit better.
Good.
Is just to not allow just this guilt trip to exist or this personal shame to really take over. That I'm able to examine the parts of myself that I don't like. That's probably why I'm able to sit here on a podcast and share all the things that I'm horrible at and be okay.
Yeah.
Because that was never me 5 years ago. I would have never done done what we're doing, had the conversation we're doing like 5 years ago. And I think it's because I've done a lot of work on kind of understanding that I have missteps too.
Yeah.
And if I don't acknowledge that, I can't change it. I can't grow away from it. But that process can be really scary for people.
Yeah.
Because it can start to turn into these, like, I'm a horrible person. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize this, and I'm such trash, and I'll never be good. That way I gotta bow out of all this stuff, and there's no learning, there's no growth there. It's just kind of devolving. And so there's a little asterisk there in this process of make sure you're doing that maybe in community with someone, you know, like you, Milton, who can kind of call you out of that and speak better things into you as you process.
Yeah. I like what you're saying. You know, it is a process. We're not gonna be great at this right away, but we can make steps towards being better at our conversation. And remembering what we're really supposed to be about.
Yeah.
Right? We're not supposed to be about a political movement. We're not supposed to be about even a religious movement. We're supposed to be about loving people the way God loves them.
Yeah.
Okay? Anything else that gets in the way of that is unnecessary and needs to be sacrificed on the altar and given to God. So that's where the inventory comes. What is this doing to what God has actually called me to do? And if anything stops me from loving him or loving my fellow man, I gotta get it out of here.
There you go.
Yeah, I gotta do it. So, and I think what a world we'd have if everyone took this seriously. Whether you believe in God or not, like I don't think this is a God thing necessarily. I think for me the power to do it comes from God. But if we could all just get motivated to live more lovingly towards one another, that would make a huge difference. And I know in the end everyone would agree, yeah, we got to do that.
Yes.
Now, how we do it, that's where the disagreement comes. But let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk, because I think we all want the same thing, so we can all get there.
Okay. Well, 8 movie. Good.
Yeah.
Subscribe now.
Has a lot of good action too, by the way.
It is good. And if you do leave a comment, don't do a drive-by -1. So
Yeah.
but leave one anyway. We'd love to engage with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Subscribe, like, share, all the things. You know the thing. I think for the most part, thank you very much for joining us on this journey as we continue to talk about, I love our conversations, man.
It's fun.
Like these deep things in life and good excuse to go to the movies. So.
Right.
Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next episode.